Welcome all to the Tortillas and Takes podcast. You are on once again with your boy, I'll be sure. And after we lollygagged for 30 minutes talking about Lord knows what, because we were trying to push off having to talk about the football game that was Liberty Bowl on the 27th because it was not great. But we're going to talk about it anyway. We're going to bring the gang all together and talk about it, starting off with the regular expert himself, Joe Lopez. What's going on, Joe?
Happy New Year's Eve, gentlemen. Yeah, talk about what happened in Memphis and talk some basketball, talk some hoops. Big 12 play starting up soon. So, yeah, let's get into it, even though everybody missed out on all the good stuff early.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if everybody did hear all the commentary earlier, because somebody, not saying names that I'm about to introduce here, don't know how to act. So that person being fresh off of vacation and massages, take that comment how you will. Jeremy Gillen, what's up, Jeremy?
There's a good 45 minutes of commentary before this that would 100% put me in the gutter. See ya, job. See ya, rest of my life plans. I'm out of here. But you're right. We're doing this. We took so long to get started. One, because we just have a great time in chat. We have a great time doing this podcast. We love just chatting it up. That's what makes this fun. We're good friends. We could all get a beer together. We can all watch Texas Tech play sports together. And most importantly, we can talk about when Texas Tech sucks together. And that's kind of what we're doing right now. Even though it took a little bit to get going. Got to warm it up. Got to,
Yeah, one thing I like that you said is that we like watching Texas Tech play sports, not necessarily win, because we wouldn't lie to you. Because we would not lie to you. And so Texas Tech did go out to Memphis. They had a good time on Beale Street, a little too good of a time. Joe and I talked about in the preview pod. We talked about the fact that we were underdogs primarily because, and actually, the line shifted all the way to our side by the time the game started. We were actually the favorites going into the game because that many people were like, oh, why would Tech be the underdogs? Talking to some people I know from Arkansas, I think it was Arkansas fans that were like, why would Tech be the underdogs? Because like we mentioned, Arkansas was without like half their team, right? They were without their starting running back, their backup running back, 3 receivers. They were without half of their O-line. They were without half of their D-line. They were without secondary pieces. They were out linebackers. They were out without so many players. One person they were not without was with their quarterback, Talon Green, who actually had and we talked about it, that if they were to win this game, it was going to be because he balled, and he did. He had 341 yards, 2 touchdowns. They were in love with him, the broadcast, just talking about his potential talking about his NFL potential and what he can do in the future. And it was just like Arkansas love fest. And on one half, I'm like, oh, God, can you get over with it already? But on the other half, I'm like, yeah, but Arkansas is also up 21-3 at the end of the first quarter. So can you blame them? Joe, what was your first reaction as we kind of started this game?
First initial thoughts was like typical Tech. This is a game that we needed to go out and, show that we're able to survive losing two coordinators, our offensive quarterback, our offensive wide receiver, our offensive running back, our 3 top dogs on our offensive side, to show that, hey, look, we could sustain and we could, move forward without these players. And man, early on, it looked like it was going to get way uglier than 19-3. We did have some chances there also in the first quarter that we didn't take full advantage of. So, but yeah, just the whole mantra, the Texas Tech mantra, the typical Tech, this is coming out, falling flat on your face on national TV. And this is why we weren't in the Big 12 championship, things like this. This was just what we do. And it wasn't looking pretty early on. And I was almost on the verge of just like, hey, I'll just stop watching it. And then I was like, okay, I'll just give it to the half. But yeah, man, just not a good way to start out a bowl game, especially being the last 2 years of bowl games under Coach McGuire, how we started those games out.
Yeah, I think one of the things I've really appreciated the last couple of years with McGuire is that with bowl games, I think are a really good way to show your culture, right? Your team culture, right? Who stays. BYU, for example, beat the brakes off of Colorado. Most of their team stayed and played in the bowl game. Now, Colorado did too. I'm not disparaging that, but I'm just saying you saw the culture that is BYU in their bowl game in the Alamo Dome, right? In the last couple of years, and a good example of this that comes to mind recently is when we played Mississippi State a couple years back. And our culture, we just went out there and we dominated them because we said we are going to be that physical team. We're going to be a team that all of our players are going to play in this game. And it was really it was good to kind of present that. So in this game, that's kind of what I was hoping, that despite the fact that we had our backup quarterback and we had our backup and third string, or maybe even fourth string, depending on what you see about Cameron Valdez, running backs, and the fact that we didn't have our star receiver, that our culture would still be able to push forward and beat a team that was missing half their team that was worse than us this year. Like, as much as we talk about Tech, Arkansas had a tough schedule. I'm not disparaging them, but 6-6 is 6-6. They still want a great team. And so you were hoping that, well, our culture would be able to push forward. But instead, I saw the other way around. I saw Arkansas's culture really show what they're about. I saw an O-line from Arkansas that really was able to put their foot on our neck. I saw, their guys kind of showing more effort at times. Jeremy, what were your thoughts?
Man, offensively, I was a bit disappointed with, I think you said it best, Albert, that bowl games have been a great testament to culture for teams. The thing about this year, and I was thinking about it after the fact, when I predicted 8-4, and I thought that we'd go to, win our bowl game, I had no idea that we would be down 2 coordinators, that we would not be running out our best of the best. I had no idea how the bowl game would look. And yet, whenever we were coming into this game, I felt, because of all the pieces that Arkansas was missing, okay, well, we can manage with what we have. Well, I really didn't consider the depth of I didn't really consider the importance of the coordinators, not just offensively, defensively. Man, just echoes of like 2013. Just so bad. Just like, hey, do you want to run 80 yards down the field? Why don't you do it? Go ahead, buddy. I'm not going to stop you. Why would I give any effort? Why would I? Why? That guy got tripped up by the freaking Buzz McKenzie, whatever, just moving his hands fast and got cooked. I was just, I was beside myself. This was just not the Texas Tech team we've seen all year. In any facet, truly. And there were a lot of missing pieces, yes, but you would hope that with Coach McGuire still being your head guy, that you would have a different, that you would have somewhat of a similar, a maintained level of enthusiasm. Dude, you're right there, and not you can get 9 wins in the season. You can send your guys off right and all of that. And you just choked in the biggest way. And if you negate those first 2 drives from Arkansas, where they basically just got to do whatever they wanted, the game's a lot closer. But you didn't show up. And it's just like, why? Why did we start so slow in some of these games? Why start so slow in the bowl game? So I was disappointed early. When we were coming back, I was like, it just doesn't feel the same. And by the time we were in the fourth quarter, I was disconnected. I was like, I got other stuff I got to do. I'll have it on, but I'm doing some other stuff around the house.
So let's talk about it a little bit. So as we kind of started this game here, like you were mentioning, Arkansas, let me tell you something, 3 plays, touchdown. They did not take much. Shout out to Rodney Hill doing one move and getting 70 yards down to the 12-yard line. And then the very next play, Taylor Green keeps it himself right in for a touchdown, right up 7-0, right? Right after that, Texas Tech is able to march down. Will Hammond, it looks like we're about to score ourselves, right? But of course, we kind of kick ourselves in the foot, a questionable 3rd and 2 call where Will Hammond keeps it himself, and we get stuffed, and we have to settle for a field goal. And right after settling for that field goal, sure enough, another pass to Isaac Tesla, back-to-back again. He has one for 18 yards, and again 56 yards where he takes it almost to the house. Let me tell you something. That is not a boy I would expect to just burn every single player in our secondary, but he did many times in this game. And Joe, you're really going to shake your head at this, that turnover on downs. 4th and goal from the 4, we decided to go for it. Good old Joey Special decided to go for it with a goal line fade. Let me tell you something, people. I already didn't like the idea to go for it on 4th and 4. I already didn't. Right at the time, you kick the field goal, you're down 14-6. Is it great? No, but you're down 1 possession. I already didn't like it. to go for it on 4th and 4, which I expected Joey to do so, to go for it on 4th and 4 and use the worst red zone play in football. The goal line fade is the most popular red zone play in football and the worst red zone play in football. It's very low success rate. Unless you have Calvin Johnson on your team, it is not a good play to call, right? What we called it, to Coy Aiken of all people, Coy Aiken of all people, and obviously it doesn't go anywhere. First of all, Will Hammond doesn't know how to do a drop ball, right? For one, right? He's just he only got one speed on his throws, all right, which is fine. I'm not denigrating it. He's 18, but he only got one speed. He's gonna draw that thing in there for one, and for two, Coy Aiken, we got a 6'9" tight end, Coy Aiken. Anyways, Joe, what did you think about that? Oh, by the way, Arkansas scored right after that, 21-3. What do you think about? Oh, actually, sorry, Joe, not to cut you off. Before I get to that, then we let Desmond James go for 94 yards. And I'm not going to say who's the corner that let that happen.
I digress for talking about how unmacho that was by Macho Stevenson.
It was a quick slant.
That's what the wide receiver did. And you might as well have not even tried to chase him down. Just stay back, run to the sideline.
Better not be on scholarship.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, that was terrible. A quick slant, and the dude just did a shoulder shimmy. He didn't even move his legs. Just went like that, and then he was whatever.
He twiddled his thumbs for 3 seconds.
Yeah,
got him.
Still would have got him.
Yeah, it was terrible. The play call on the fade to Coy was terrible. Also, it just goes there for lacking of guys who've actually called games, and this is kind of where things like this actually showed. The Will Hammond run there early on, that was a questionable. Like, why would you call something like that? And some of the defensive plays, which we'll get into, but that CJ IU was calling, it was just like, bro, what are we doing here? And you really don't know how big you're missing those pieces until they're gone. And it showed in this game in multiple ways than one. And, I think just a standard person would be like, okay, you have a mismatch, right? Coy one-on-one with somebody there on the wide side of the field. I guess you could say in any scenario, okay, that's, 50-50 chance, but you got to give your guy a chance. Will Hammond's arm is a little too charged up for said throws like that. He's the guy who throws the slant in between traffic. That's the throw he needs to make there. Or if that's what the play you're calling there, that's the throw you need to make. But yeah, man, I didn't like it. 6'9" guy. Come on, man. Something.
And
shit.
Well, and to that point about play calling, I don't actually know the play that was called, but it did look like a cover one on a 3rd and 8, not with when your corner is not the most macho. So that even that's questionable on one side, because when I was rewatching, I'm like, well, where was the safety out? There was none. Why? Oh, there wouldn't have been. That's like, yeah, Macho was terrible, but also at the same time, why would this be the call on 3rd down? Third and fairly long.
And why are you giving them 4 or 5 yards off the line if you have that coverage called too? You should be press man,
Yeah, it is the whole thing just didn't make much sense there. Right after that, we do get a little bit of breather, right? And a safety. Isaac Smith getting that sack in the end zone, getting the safety there. Huge punt also, by the way, before I even get to that. Great punt by Burgess. Probably one of the best punts he's ever done, actually. It was an incredible punt by him. Obviously flipping the field, but getting to the 2-yard line. And then, of course, the safety. And then right after that, we scored a touchdown. Because of the guy I've been trying to tell y'all about, Jacoby Williams, 54 yards to the house. And just like that, we're feeling type of way. We force a fumble right after that. And then we have the ball down 9. And, of course, 4th and 2. Now, this is one, actually, I didn't have a problem going for 4th and 2 on 37. That just makes sense, right? I would have liked to see another Conyers package. I think he would have also been able to get this at 4th and 2, to be honest. But the play call was fine, I guess. I would have rather it'd be Dickey instead of Williams to do that run. But I'm not going to do I'm not going to play hindsight coaching here. I think that's I wish it would have worked. It just didn't. But this one I didn't have as much of a problem with. We get the punt and we get a touchdown before half. And just like that, Jeremy, halftime is 21-19. We back in it, baby. Well, 24-19, but we'll get into that.
Yeah. I almost felt good. The sequence of getting a touchdown, then creating some havoc, felt like, okay, now we're kind of getting the ball rolling, and we can kind of capitalize on the momentum. And we started climbing back. That felt good. Well, first of all, the safety felt good. I love a good 5 points on the board. Get a field goal on a safety. I think that's one of the funniest numbers to ever be on a football scoreboard. But we got there, so that felt really nice. The safety, I think, created an opportunity for you to go down, get that touchdown, and kind of start moving the needle, and then capitalizing. It was correct. It was getting to that 19-21 mark before the half, still like a minute 20 or something like that, where I thought, okay, the defense is awake. Thank God. Whoever's calling the shots is awake. We can manage this. Get to the. This is where my hope still existed, and it was going to disappear pretty quickly. But I said, if we get to the half, 19-21, you're sitting pretty good. You're sitting pretty good because you look like you were non-existent at the end of the first quarter, 21-3. Give me a break. But she held Arkansas just to 3 in that second quarter. We've mitigated the big plays. We capitalized defensively, and we're playing some offense. Oh, it was all going Texas Tech. And then they got a field goal.
And what we said, the middle six, so or the middle, however you want to call it, but basically right before halftime, right after halftime. And we did give them a good 2 minutes to go down there, and Taylor Green carved us up for 2 minutes and was able to set them up for a field goal right at halftime to get the lead, which was still, we're down 5, but I do think that a big piece of that is that all the momentum we gained in the second quarter almost felt like it got sucked out by that drive and field goal. Like it was, and then they started the next half, and we again held them to a field goal, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with holding them to a field goal. But what ends up happening is that now it's an 8-point game, and now you need your offense to really come with something. And them coming up right after that Arkansas field goal in the second half, we punted away, 3 and out, no success, no nothing. We passed it short to Jacoby Williams, short of the first down. He gets tackled. And the next play, once again, another deep shot to C.J. Brown, and then another deep shot to Terrell Reed for 47 yards and a touchdown. And then a terrible interception by Will Hammond. And the game felt over right there, right? Like after that Will Hammond interception, it was all right, guys, let's pack it up. It's over. Joe, am I on base there?
Absolutely. You're spot on. Exactly how it felt, Just that field goal late at the end of the second quarter was the start of the balloon deflating, and then it just kept on deflating and deflating and deflating. And right there, whenever that interception was thrown, the balloon popped for Texas Tech, and I didn't think we had enough in the tank to come back from that. So yeah, spot on.
Which is kind of sad because we're down 15 at that point. That shouldn't be it. But no. I'm of the belief, that. And I've actually even heard this, right? That what us fans, the emotions that we go through are the emotions that players go through as well. So if we're sitting there, if you're on defense, you're watching the game, you're playing the game, you see all this, you know how the game is going. You have the same emotions that fans do. So when see that interception down 15, just like the fan base being deflated of, well, that's the game, players on the sideline thinking, well, that's the game. Right, like yes, there's a full quarter and almost 3 minutes to go in the game, and you're only down 15. It shouldn't be the end of the game, but we've seen this tape before. We see how the momentum is going. All right, let's just go out there and make it stop the bleeding a little bit. And I think defense did a fine job from here to the end of the game. But basically, from that moment, the game was virtually over. The rest of the game was nothing but punts, tech offense, throwing another interception, getting another safety, and then finally getting a touchdown to make it seem like we didn't get beat as bad as we really did. But Texas Tech does end the game with a loss, 39-26, and in a game that really, I think, more than anything, you realize just how bad our secondary can be without Braylon Lux, just how much we should value Baron Morton, and buddy, we knew Tim DeRuyter was good. We knew Tim DeRuyter was good, but I think we all needed another reminder that Tim DeRuyter didn't get fired because he was a bad DC. He got fired because of circumstance. Because you just can't bring a DC back after a year that bad. But it was absolutely the players that got him fired. I think that was the main key there, Jeremy. Like, that's the players is what got DeRuyter fired, not because he doesn't have the ability to coach.
I try to tell y'all. No, it was definitely on display. And schematically, I think Texas Tech just looked worlds different, a lot less different pressured looks. Like, it just didn't look like the defense that got us to the 8-win season that we had. Yeah, it wasn't perfect. Yeah, there was a lot of times where we felt like we could have done more. But Tim DeRuyter is a great schemer. He's, again, been in the profession a long time. If he had a different cohort of guys, like, I would be interested to see Tim DeRuyter with the guys that we have coming in next year. But at the same time, with Wood, I think we're in better hands anyways with kind of this Big 12 offensive alignment. But yeah, buddy, that was bad defense, and the players were pretty bad too. The players were pretty bad.
Yeah, it's I like CJ Ayu. I think Coach Ayu is a good positions coach. I think he still has a nice future. He's gonna have to work on that play calling. It's gonna be it was pretty rough. Not only that, but having a lot of confidence in certain plays. Just doesn't have that confidence. Unfortunately, if you're listening to this and you're watching the game, you're like, oh well, maybe some of these guys are in the portal in the secondary. Nope, they're not. They're gonna be here. But I think one bright side, Joe, is that a lot of the problem areas, a lot of the things that I saw, whether it's in the secondary, the lack of D-line pressure, the infusion of pressure on the offense side of the ball, where Hammond was rushed at times. Almost every area where I was like, man, we're not playing well, is an area that was addressed in the portal. So I think that is a positive there.
Yeah, I mean, even into the coordinators, you think about the upgrades that we made, and in between Leftwich and then what we made in Coach Wood, as opposed to DeRuyter. I still think DeRuyter probably would have schemed a little bit better for this game. Maybe I called for Dingle to be spying on the quarterback the entire game, because he's the only guy on the linebacking group that has that athleticism to just keep them in front of you, but that, obviously didn't happen for said reasons. But also, to your point, it seems like everything was addressed previously or prior to this game for next year. Like, this is the reason why everybody came to Texas Tech, and why we went and bought an offensive line, a defensive line, and, all these pieces in the secondary. This is why. This was a perfect example of what happened in Memphis, is why we did what we did the 2 weeks prior to Memphis actually happening. So I think a lot of it's been addressed, and I think that's why a lot of people this is a little bit smaller pill to swallow for some, knowing that help is on its way. Like, this is the stuff that we're getting in, and this is why we're getting it. So I think overall wise, I think you could live with this game. Some people will hate it, but just knowing what we have coming next year, but does put a bigger microscope on this football team because of that. But, it is something that we're going to have to figure out.
Let me ask you guys something. Fair or foul? Taj Brooks, Joe Kelly, and Braylon Lux, really, in my opinion, the only three guys that have a potential for an NFL future. those three guys are all opted out of this game. Fair or foul for them opting out, Joe?
Taj, I think, is fair because he has the highest upside, right? This is maybe could cost him millions. He gets hurt in this game. Josh Kelly and or Braylon Lux. I don't think these are going to be undrafted guys. Maybe not so much Josh Kelly. He may be a late round guy, but Braylon Lux is probably going to be an undrafted free agent somewhere. So put more tape out there for yourself. But I think he kind of put himself in a decent position going into this game. But I don't think it's a great position. Taj Brooks is the only one I understand. All the others are kind of head scratchers for me.
What's interesting? It's fair. I like what Joe said, though. What was interesting to me is that it felt like Taj is probably going to play, and it was like a late decision, and it might not even been his decision. It might have been like a manager being like, "Listen, you don't need to do this. It's actually better if you don't." Because he ended up, like you were saying, Albert. I mean, he was on the depth chart, and and we were all super stoked. It was like, oh well, if Taj plays this game, it's in the bag, right? And it very well might have been. But yeah, the other guys, I feel like you could have done a lot more for yourself had you played. Truly, it's interesting to see. It just like I don't, and we did, we did talk about Josh Kelly. I think McGuire said, well, if Josh was under 1,000 yards on the season, he would have played in the bowl game. And I was like,
that's dumb.
Okay. So
what is this, the NFL with contract incentives? I
was like, honestly, I'm like, wouldn't you want, if Arkansas is depleted defensively, wouldn't you want to rack up them numbers on these boys? Like, wouldn't that want to be especially when, Taj came back to play to increase his draft stock. Like, that was his whole thing. It was like, hey, I didn't get the numbers I wanted to from all that last time. I'm going to come back and try to improve it. And improve he did, right? There was no Ollie Gordon conversation this year. It was Taj Brooks, right? Out of those two. And so, but with Josh Kelly, it was like, you could have done a lot more with this bowl game. You could have done, I don't see how you would have hurt your stock this bowl game unless you just like missed every pass that came your way, which I don't see that happening either. So I don't know. Taj is the only one I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense.
And also the threat of injury, of course. I will say Taj also, shout out to NIL, had a financial reason to come back.
No doubt.
But yeah, but I will say I do think all three of them could get drafted. Taj will, no question about it. I do think that Kelly and Lux have enough on tape to where it would not surprise me to see them get drafted in day 3 either. That being said, playing an SEC defense, even a depleted one, putting something on tape there, I don't think you're at a position for either one of them to where playing hurts. Flip side of that, I also see the argument maybe from Tech side of saying, hey, let's let Macho Stevenson get some reps. Let's let Jacoby Williams. let's let Jacoby Williams, and the first one was a joke. This one's serious. Let's let Jacoby Williams and Cameron Dickey get some reps, and let's see how. Because now bowl games, I'm talking about coach thing, but also it's a way to see get reps for next year. Miami. Now this one is another interesting one. Cam Ward for Miami. He played the first half and then dipped out, and he played the first half so he could break the record for most passing touchdowns in a career, and then he dipped out at halftime. And for Miami, I think part of that is also for to get a chance to get their backup quarterback, who likely will be their starter quarterback next year, some game experience, some reps. Like, you got to get them. You're basically using this as a preseason game for next year, and so I do get it on that standpoint. Like, these bowl games are meaningless pony shows in a way, but it does get you an opportunity to kind of see what it is for next year. Flip side, for fan service, we want to see these guys out for the last time, right? That's what bowl games always used to be, an opportunity to get one last chance to see Todd Brooks, one last chance to see Josh Kelly. I said Joe earlier, my bad. Josh Kelly, one last chance to see Braylon Lux, one last chance to not see other people in the secondary. And we just don't get opportunity to do that anymore, which is kind of sad. I think, as I watched the Colorado game, Yeah, they got smacked, embarrassingly so. But at least as Colorado fans, they got to see an end of an era, right, Jeremy? They got to see the end of Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter one last time. So I do think that fan service at the very least is there. And those are two guys that didn't need to play. Like they had no reason to play for Colorado. I mean, I think BYU also had a few players on their team that, I mean, other than an Alamo Bowl trophy, which is kind of cool. Like they didn't have any reason to play other than one last chance to play with the team, one last chance to play for the fans. And I think that's one of the things we are missing. But from a coaching standpoint, I do getting the young guys some game experience.
I mean, that's why they got those insurance policies on themselves before that game.
Which I love that. I love that so much.
Which, like, I guess if, Taj wanted to do that and put that contingency on himself to at least have himself protected if something were to go south in that game, then, so be it. But, that's why they opted in,
So what would you rather? What would you rather then? And I think I know the answer, but would you rather, and I'm not talking about certain players, I'm just saying in general, would you rather the mindset of let the players play one last time with the team and in front of fans, or would you rather let's get the young guys game experience for next year?
Well, I would rather just have. You're trying to get the W here. You don't want to. That's the end of the ballgame. That's the end goal is wins and losses. The more wins on the board, the more you look at. And breaking records here, but I would rather just see the W. And the players out there.
Yeah.
Do you have your offense and or defensive coordinator? If not, then I just want to play whoever's going to give me the freaking win. Because here's the thing: if we don't have our coordinators, who the hell giving these kids experience with what? Crappy coordinating? Get out of here! Hey, we're just gonna. This is gonna be one game. We're just gonna go out there, and everything we're gonna do is gonna be a lot different starting after this game. So really practice up, but really don't get committed to this playbook because it doesn't actually exist. It's just like, let's go out there and wing it, and we sure did. And you know what, buddy, we got smacked. So yeah, I don't know. I get that if you're like investing schematically in the future, but that wasn't the case for Texas Tech. So it was more like, let's just get these guys some game experience so they can feel what it's like to play on a real big stage. Never mind that half the stadium is missing. It's a big stage.
There was a lot of Arkansas fans there. I was surprised. I wasn't sure how many would actually show up. It is very close for Arkansas, but they've had a disappointing season, so I wasn't sure. But there was a lot of Arkansas fans there. Helping them and helping get the victory. So Texas Tech loses 39-26, but you never lose if you go to Charlie Hustle. That's right, charliehustle.com, home in Kansas City, Missouri, home to the Kansas City Chiefs that are right now fighting for that 1 seed, fighting for that best record in the NFL with our guy Pat Mahomes. That's right, Pat Mahomes, fellow Texas Red Raider, and Charlie Hustle has Kansas City Chiefs stuff, and they have Texas Tech stuff. They have nice, soft, comfortable Texas Tech swag. You can get a discount on that Texas Tech swag if you use our promo code 101215. That is TEN1215 to get 15% off of all non-sale items. They want you to be the best dressed fan as we come to the end of this season. They want you to be the best dressed fan in bowl season. So make sure to go to charliehustle.com with our promo code 101215 to get 15% off of all non-sale items. So what else was on sale was the Texas Tech men's basketball team's non-conference schedule, apparently. Because it was pretty weak. Wasn't much to it. We've talked about it before, but this non-con schedule, and we're used to weak non-cons, right? Coach Beard didn't schedule non-cons that were tough. Mark Adams didn't schedule non-cons that were tough. And now Coach McCaslin does not schedule non-cons that are tough. And actually, McCaslin might be the easiest non-con of the group. This non-con was not difficult. The best team we were going to play in non-con would have been Texas had we beat St. Joe's. We did not beat St. Joe's. So because of that, we did not get to play Texas. Instead, we played a much worse Syracuse team that I don't think is going to make the tournament. I don't even know if they make the NIT, but we did beat them. The best team we ended up playing in non-con was Texas A&M in a neutral site in Fort Worth, and we lost that game. So with that, Texas Tech now sits 9-2. going into conference play, which is not a bad record. We beat all the teams we were supposed to beat. We have one bad loss in St. Joe's and one expected loss, I guess is the way you can call it, an A&M game. But with that, our non-conference strength of schedule is one of the worst in the country. It's 304th. It's not good. And so shout out to JBR Basketball. I think his account, other than Ken Palm, is I think one of the best or most analytically sound accounts, college basketball fan accounts that there is. And so he had a post earlier. Shout out to Kenzie for finding it. But he had a post earlier that basically was talking about Texas Tech and was saying he projected what he thinks Texas Tech's going to be. He said that he thinks 9-2, but Texas Tech projected to be 22-9 with a 13-7 conference record. He says the predictive metrics are excellent, but there's a lot of concerns about this resume going into conference play. Their resume metric is not good. It needs to be typically less than 50 for an at-large bid. It's right now it's 67.3 as far as that goes. And so right now we have 0 quad 1 or quad 2 wins. And the St. Joe's loss, St. Joe's right now is 5 spots away from getting a quad 3 loss, which would be absolutely terrible. So luckily we're in the Big 12. You might be saying, well, the Big 12, hey, this is a gauntlet. We're going to be in the Big 12. It's going to be fine. However, the Big 12, not as looking as tough as it was supposed to be, right? So it's not as strong as it's supposed to be. So because of this, because of our weak non-con, because the Big 12 isn't just a gauntlet like it was the last couple of years, he's basically saying if we don't get an 11-9 record, we are not going to March. We're not going to the NCAA tournament. Typically for Texas Tech, when it was an 18, now it's a 20-game conference schedule, but when it was an 18-game conference schedule, a 500 record, a 9-9 record, not only does it get you into the tournament, it gets you comfortably in. You're not even kick your feet up. It used to be that you could have a 7-11 record, and that was probably going to get you in. And now he's saying 11-9, which is a little over 500. Whew! You get in by the hair of your hairs on your chinny chin, Jeremy. What do you think about that? Is he spot on? Is he far off, or what do we think of this whole thing?
This has been the condemnation of the Big 12 for the past however many years, that the Big 12 has been touted as like the best basketball conference. People are like, well, their non-conference sucks. And the retort was, well, the Big 12 is so tough that really it doesn't matter, because like when we play conference, every win is a quad 1 win. And so basically we're just stacking success with these Q1 wins every time we win a Big 12 game. And it was a lot different whenever our net, like the net rating across the Big 12 was, you couldn't deny it, right? But this year it is looking a lot different with some of your more perennial teams, Kansas, Arizona, Houston, like all these like guys, they've seen losses early on, and it's just like, well, didn't expect that to happen. So what does that say about the Big 12, right? And so where we would have had the benefit of the doubt of like, yeah, their non-con sucks, but okay, they lost a big guy, that's a big thing. Now it's like we don't have the Big 12 to fall back on, even though we got Toppin coming back. Like it's like, well, we're going to have to really run the table if we're going to have a proportional chance of getting in where we want to get into the tournament. Like it's got to look a lot different this year. And so you're going to have a different level of effort in what will still be a difficult conference. Like just because these teams are losing does not mean that they want to lose. Does not mean that these are not talented teams, right? So I think when you see kind of like the Big 12 games already, like it's been tight. It's been good games. And so that's what the Big 12 conference does well. Basketball, not going to be any different. But I don't think he's too far off in saying that it's going to take a little bit more. I think there will be less Big 12 teams in the tournament this year. And I think it's going to take a little bit more something special for each team to like mark their way in the way that they've been used to doing, the past couple of years, especially Texas Tech.
Yep.
Yeah, the season itself, I mean, if you go looking through the rankings, or not the rankings, or I guess the win losses for all the teams in the Big 12. I mean, 11-1 Iowa State was probably the most consistent of the group, like the top two, which we thought would be Iowa State, Houston, Arizona, Kansas, Baylor, maybe to a point, Cincinnati as a dark horse. Man, it's a lot of these losses and stuff like that. This is one of those conferences that we thought was going to be very, very strong, and it's looking like there's a lot of winnable games here, and a lot of games that you could lose. I mean, it's just to Jeremy's point. I mean, I don't think we're going to get quite as many teams in the tournament like what we had originally thought whenever we started doing the preseason stuff, and just how some of these teams stacked up. It seemed like 8 or 9 teams could potentially be in the NCAA tournament from the Big 12 itself, and it's not looking like it's going to be that way for right now. Tech's got a lot of work to do. We've been without Toppin for a handful of games. We lost Evan Cambridge for the year. How are we going to adjust some of these lineups for the conference play that starts tomorrow, or as you guys are listening today? It's just really interesting. It does look like we have a favorable schedule, like we've been talking pre-pod. But man, this basketball team is going to have to show more than what they've shown in the non-conference to be, to stack up against the competition in the Big 12, to stay competitive.
Yeah, I think one of the things was helpful with topping out was that we got a chance to see what other guys can do, right? I mean, we talked about in the last episode, you really got to get an opportunity for guys like Christian Anderson to build their confidence to really start balling out of control like he was in that last game. Got an opportunity to see like Federico against Oral Roberts, even though he didn't play in the game against Lamar, he played against Oral Roberts and really balled out, 23 points, 12 rebounds. And so I think it just Chance McMillan doing what he always done for the last year and a half now, which is, put up shots and be consistent. So we got an opportunity to see other guys and other players play well. Emilio Yalaho, now that he's healthy, getting more minutes and stuff like that. But I think now what we lack there is seeing how these guys play with Toppin still. Like we saw it a little earlier in the year, but I also want to see, you can't just be Toppin doing everything. It can't be everybody working independent of Toppin, which I think sometimes, especially like the St. Joe's game, that's one of the things that I was noticing is that it's almost like either Toppin, you do what you do, or if you ain't gonna do that, then I guess the rest of us can play basketball, but we ain't gonna do it at the same time, right? And so I think that's what we lose with his injury. But luckily, he is going to be healthy in time for the UCF game, so we get an opportunity to just, hey, McCaslin, that's why you get paid the big bucks. You got to make sure it gets put together. But that's I think that's where we are, right? I think his JBR's estimation that we're going to need 11 wins to get to the tournament, I think is right. Luckily, he's saying he thinks we're going to get there. He thinks the team's good enough to get there, but that's 11-9 just to be in as a 9 or 10 seed, right? That's what we're expecting. What we think this team can be. We think this team coming into the season could be a potential top 5 seed. And if that's right now, we're gonna have to be a top 5 seed with that non-con. We're gonna have to compete for the Big 12 championship, right? Which maybe is not as daunting a task as we originally thought, but it's still not going to be easy. I mean, you still have your Houstons and your I won't say Arizona, but your Kansases. You still have your teams that. I mean, I won't say Cincinnati anymore, but you still have your top teams in the conference that you're going to have to contend with. And as of right now, I don't think Texas Tech has played like those top teams. And I think they played a little closer to a team that's going to end up being on the bubble come March.
Yeah, most definitely. It's just one of those things as well. It's just like you don't want to have to be relying on other teams winning and losing games for you to be in the Big 12 championship, kind of consideration. You just want to be able to get there on your own merit. And like you said, I mean, they haven't done anything non-conference wise where it makes you scream other than them beating down really bad teams, but also losing to teams that you should have beat in St. Joe's. And then maybe the A&M game is the one game that you're like, well, maybe if we had a Toppin, that game, ultimately ends up differently, but we had Toppin with St. Joe's and, that was the outcome. So just a lot to unpack there, but I think you want to do it on your own merit without getting so much help from the rest of the league.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, Jeremy, as we kind of come into conference play coming up here shortly, Texas Tech starts off conference play New Year's Eve, so right when this episode drops, and playing UCF, the UCF Golden Knights. It's going to be an interesting game here. UCF, as the season started, for them, this is a team that was not expected to be anything special this year. I think they've actually had a pretty decent start to the season. Their only two losses coming to ranked Wisconsin and to LSU. But other than that, they did get a big win to start the season against Texas A&M. So that's the common opponent that we lost to and they beat, right? And so other than that, they haven't really played anybody either, right? They're right now on a 5-game winning streak, but that's against a close win against Milwaukee, another close win against Tulsa, right? But they're a team that hasn't really played much of anyone. What do you make of this game coming in New Year's Eve?
Well, remember, UCF started off the season beating a team that we couldn't beat. And that kind of shocked everybody when they came out and beat A&M. I don't remember, they were top 15 or something at the time. No problem, right? And it was crazy. And that was started off this narrative for me. It was like, oh, hell yeah, Big 12, we here, baby. Even our worst teams are beating your best. But like you said, they've had a pretty good season, surprising season compared to where we thought that this team would end up. Losing the Wisconsin game and then losing to LSU, it's going to happen, right? But it's a team I'm kind of worried about because UCF plays pretty dynamic right now. They've got 3 really good guards in Curry, Ivy Curry. What are 2 other guys' names? Johnson, I think. I need to look this crap up. Oh, yeah, and Hall. So Ivy Curry, Hall, and Johnson have been playing electric. They pretty much share the breadth of possession, which I think has been working really well for UCF. It's like they're playing this really unique kind of hybrid, a lot of small ball play until they toss it off to their 7'2" freshman. Yeah, TM, massive guy in the middle. Reminds me of Taco Fall, right? UCF kind of finding these abnormally tall human beings to play down low. Kind of a dangerous team. They haven't lost since that LSU game. They're feeling, I mean, they haven't really played anybody since then, but it's a team that's on a roll. It's a team that feels confident. It's a team that has success shooting the ball. I don't know what to say. Like, it's a team that if we're not playing our best, they're going to get past us, and we need Toppin. There's no doubt about it. We don't have anybody who can get up and guard TM. I promise you, bro. Like, UCF is shaping up to be a lot better than we thought they'd be. Are they a top half of the Big 12? No, I don't think so. They're probably kind of more towards the middle now, probably in the middle of the Big 12. We'll see how they end up playing against quality opponents. But like for this game, I'm a little bit nervous. Like I think that you got to shake off. And here's the other thing. We haven't really mentioned it, but like Texas Tech's only lost 2 games, right? We lost St. Joe's and we lost Texas A&M. You've only lost 2 games, and in the last 2 games you had, you've beat the brakes off the teams you played. And Kinsey said it best is like, why is nobody talking about the basketball team right now? Like, why is everybody kind of dipped out? Like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to talk about this team right now. I don't know. I don't want to get on board and for us to get waxed. It's exactly what it is. And UCF's a team that would relish the opportunity to. They've already surprised everybody with their level of play this season. What they're looking to do when they play Texas Tech tomorrow is they're looking to beat Texas Tech, make the stamp early in the Big 12. So they're playing they're playing off a lot of momentum. Texas Tech is kind of playing on the back foot. And like, we have to win this in order to set the tone for the rest of conference play. And I don't like being there. I really don't like being there.
Well, only here on Tortillas and Takes can you get this top tier analysis from Jeremy where he forgets the 3 guards from UCF. Top tier analysis, folks.
Brother spent the whole time typing this banner up.
But no, overall, I think you're absolutely right. Like UCF, this is their moment to kind of put their stake in the grass and say, hey, we're here. We are a good basketball team, right? Their non-con, though it's similar to ours and that is also weak, but again, we had that common opponent in Texas A&M that they beat. They won. Sure, you can say that, oh, well, when we loved the Austin A&M was on a neutral site and they beat them at home. I don't care. They won. They won the game. And also, to be honest, Texas Tech, we have higher aspiration than being just as good as UCF. It's not where we're supposed to be, right? So, I don't look at that and say that works. That's good enough. I think we do have to play better in this game. Joe, what do you think about this game?
I think the only thing that like the big thing component for me is going to be the rotations that UCF has in comparison to what we have. Their rotation is about 6 deep. They have a 7th fringe guy, but he only gets about 10 to 12 minutes a game. But the majority of the work is going to be 6 guys. And if you're able to get some of these guys in foul trouble early, and then this kind of goes into your favor, we're still running 8 deep with Toppin. EY starting to get his minutes picked up as well. So, I mean, you have 8 capable bodies here. This is one of the games. You have to hold serve at home. You have to win these games that teams that are on the fringe that are coming into Lubbock, that you have to win these games. And I think Tech holds the advantage as far as the players in depth go. But, if you don't get on some of these shooters where we've been lackluster in some of our perimeter defense, it could be a long afternoon for this Texas Tech basketball team for sure.
No, absolutely. So with that being said, it's time to get to our prize picks predictions. That's right, prize picks. Download the app, and you're going to get a 100% match up to $100 using our promo code TAKES12, TAKES12 to get that 100% match up to $100. Free money, folks. So Texas Tech, UCF, New Year's Day. If you are listening to this after the game, the game's early, it's at 2:00. So if you listen to this after the game, you tell us what happened. Okay. But I won't get into all the odds and all that jazz. I'll just dive right into it. Jeremy, what is your key to the game and what is your prediction?
JT Toppin. JT Toppin's the key to the game. Without him, our offense runs completely different. Our defense struggles in transition. I think that Toppin is like the glue to this team, which isn't always a bad thing, but like it has been a bad thing when he's not there. And so having him back, hearing that he's been getting, conditioned to be in this game, not just kind of like, oh, you're cleared, come on back. I'm expecting a lot more out of JT Toppin. And I think one of the best quotes I ever heard was like, I'm not expecting a lot of you because you can't do it. Like, I'm expecting a lot out of JT Toppin because we know that he's that ball player and we know what he brings to this team. And so, like, I don't expect greatness in this game because he's a great player. So that's my key to the game. Did you say prediction?
Yeah.
Ah, shit. Well, of course. So
New Year?
let me tell you about my New Year. Let me just go on a filibuster real quick about my New Year's resolutions. No, for this game, man, I don't see it being low scoring. I don't even. Is there a point total set yet? Is there like a? Where's our over?
Yeah. So the odds: Texas Tech is 12.5-point favorites according to ESPN Bet.
Bet the under, folks. Bet the under. Bet the under.
That's not how spreads work, Jeremy.
Do it. Do it. I can't gamble anymore legally in the state of Texas. So, I no, it's going to be much closer than that, buddy. I think that you're in a 5-point game, no doubt. Even with Toppin back, like this team has to get used to playing with him again in a game setting. So, give me Texas Tech. Like with Toppin in, we're a completely different team. Give me Texas Tech to win this late, defensive action, transition. Oh God, I love transition. Transition points, and we win like 82-77.
Makes you feel better any better, Jeremy. The line actually moved. It used to be 13.5. So,
I feel so much better. People are paying attention.
Yeah. Joe, what's your key to the game and your prediction? You're on mute there, Joe.
My big key to the game is going to be Kerwin Walton, just because his points per game has been diminishing and his role on this team has been diminishing as well, but yet he's still a starter. Come conference time, I think, if he doesn't get it back in line to where he normally has been, especially around what he was last year, he may lose those minutes to, I don't know, Kevin Overton, as in the starting. And then now you have a guy coming in off the bench. We just need him to get that shot back, because once he gets those things going in, and then it's just like clockwork and just another lethal 3-point shooter on the line. He hasn't quite been that way this year, only averaging about 6 points per game on 20 minutes, which isn't, really good numbers to be for a sharpshooter. This isn't, 1 or 2 threes a game, if that, but he's not really doing a whole lot on the offensive side. And I think he's going to be a key component along with Toppin. You get Toppin, now you're having these defense collapse on you around the block, and now you can start getting the ball to some of your shooters, and Kerwin Walton being one of those shooters. I think he's going to need to have a big game and a big, conference year for this team to be successful. I do think Texas Tech is just going to outrun this team. Not going to say run them off the court itself, but just due to the depth and what UCF implores, I just don't think it's going to be a game that is going to be super, super close. But I say somewhere in the 7 to 10 point range there, 65-75 Texas Tech tomorrow afternoon.
65-75 Texas Tech. So, tell you all a little something. Texas Tech employs one of the best offenses in the country by metrics. Now, it does help that we played nobodies for most of the year, but still one of the best offenses in the country, literally 4th in the nation in field goal percentage. And UCF, again, also a pretty weak conference schedule, still employs one of the worst. Not a good defense for UCF overall. So much so that they're actually 326th in the country in field goal attempts given up per game. Right? Not great, Bob. 130th in field goal percentage per game. So when you're playing a team like Texas Tech that loves to get into the rack, loves making their shots, love wide open shots, it's not going to be really great for UCF. That 12.5-point line is there because this UCF defense is just not very good. Despite, one thing I'll say about Tech, we've had a weak schedule, but we've beat the crap out of everybody we play. We may have a weak schedule, but we're showing it's weak. UCF hasn't had the same fortune. I mentioned it before. They beat Tulsa by 13. They beat Tarleton State by 15. They beat Milwaukee by 8. Right? LSU is a game, and mind you, LSU is not this great team either. They gave up 109 points to LSU. 109 points to LSU. This is the same LSU team that just recently lost to SMU. So it only scored 64 points against them. So I just think this UCF defense is way too bad to protect the losers game. My key to the game is run it up. Run it up because UCF's going to allow you to do so. So run it up, run up the score. I'm going to go ahead and say Texas Tech wins this game 82-70. 82-70. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think UCF is going to let us make it a high-scoring game. I think we're going to run in this game. And I do think, funny enough, that Kerwin Walton's going to have a big game simply because UCF's going to let him have a good game. They're going to let him get hot, right? And so 82-70, I'm going to there might be a bad beat in here where we're up 14 and nonsense happens and UCF gets a final bucket and we're on bad beats. So shout out to Scott Van Pelt. But yeah, that's where I have it. So either way, all three of us have Texas Tech starting the season with a victory, starting the conference season with a victory. Right after this game, Tech, again, and I was mentioning the pre-pod, the Tech has a fairly favorable schedule to start the year. Where we started off with UCF, a Utah team that's not very good, and a BYU team that's not good yet. They're about to be. They have the number one player in the country coming to their team next year. But they're not – and actually I say they're not good. They're decent. They're okay right now, but they'll be much better next year. But at least starting the season off with 3 very winnable games, though the latter 2 is going to be on the road in the state of Utah. Still very winnable games. And the benefit of them being both in Utah is – I would hope the team will just stay in Utah, so it won't be you won't have to worry about that travelers issue. But that's all before the Iowa State game. So I think if Tech can at least, I think Tech really needs to be undefeated going into that Iowa State game. And then it's Thrilla in Manila, baby, against the number 3 team in the nation. Anything else you want to say to the people, Jeremy?
Happy 2025. Happy New Year. Happy 2025. May we get to play sports yet again. That'd be nice.
That sounded a little ominous. Joe, anything else you want to say to people?
Hey, no, stop that. Stop that. Remember, 4 years ago, we didn't get sports. Sports got all effed up because of COVID. And I said, after that, I will never not be grateful for a year that we can watch sports. Every year, I'm going to say it. I'm thankful we can watch sports this year. Regular sports, not like, hey, here's the COVID rules, no fans, and we're just going to randomly do this crap.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I will say we watch sports.
Yeah, we
sports were watched. You know, hey, don't talk down on Korean baseball. All right.
All right, Joe.
Oh, yeah. Is it my turn? Yeah.
It's my turn. It's my turn.
A big happy new year 2025. And then, the starting of my first full year with you guys of 2025, from the start. So that's a big one for me. And also fuck Fernando Carmona. That's all I got to say.
Dang, son.
Dang. Beep.
Dang, son. Yeah, I was about to say, I don't know if YouTube has like the one F word rule, like PG-13 movies.
Well, I just used it. Yeah.
Yeah, well used. And you know what? He did that to his own career anyways. So
yeah,
it all came.
Yeah. You know what's funny is that what's bad whenever a video comes out of that and ain't nobody defending him. Like no coaches came out of their way.
Fan, yeah.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, no coaches were like, no, we don't. That's not who he represents. Everybody was like, no, he's kind of been a D-bag his whole life. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I saw some other video with him like doing some arm bar on an old Miss dude in the end zone.
Nobody like that's how you know it's bad when nobody defends you. Everybody's like, yeah, he's been an a-hole like forever. I don't know what to tell you. And he's just like, and coaches had to be like, dude, you got to stop this nonsense. They got you on 4. This is on 4K. That video where it's like they got you on 4K. He's an a-hole. Luckily, CJ Baskerville, who was also playing this game. Luckily, CJ Baskerville didn't actually get injured. Even though Arkansas fans try to be like, ho, 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 look at CJ Baskerville making a completely legal tackle in bounds. How dare you?
He went for his legs. He went for his ankles. Yeah.
Yeah. How ironic. The irony here is that I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyways. But yeah, overall, that's Fernando, whatever nonsense. But yeah, here at Tortillas Takes, Happy New Year to everyone. 2025 looking up. It's looking up. Hopefully it ends the way that it seems like it's beginning on the football side. As far as the basketball side, we just getting started. Hopefully we kicked the new year off on New Year's Eve with a nice Texas Tech victory, as we're all predicting here. So for People's Champ, that is Jeremy Gillen, and for the very expert himself, Joe Lopez, you have been listening to your boy Albie and the rest of the team here at Tortillas Takes. As always, stay right, people. Shout out to Mama Z.
Mama Z, we love you.